Howdy! Today I am making a bench planter that actually looks like a bench. I've seen the other ones on Facebook Marketplace that everybody else is making that look more like an Adirondack potty chair. I'm not really a fan of those. Also, everyone I've looked at on there, the bottoms are very poorly attached. This one does not have that issue because I gave it an extra 1.75 inches of depth. Be back in a moment. I'm going to show you how I made this thing. Alright, I'll be putting a full cut list in the description, but just so you can see my notes there. What we have, it is one picket plus 1.75 inches of a picket deep, which gives you enough room to put a real bottom on it. Flip this guy over here. As you can see, we have a real cross-braced bottom that does not sacrifice any depth because it's more than a picket deep. All the other ones I've seen online have been just one picket deep, which isn't enough. Front legs, 11 inches. The back legs are a hybrid, fancy word, huh? Of an 11 and a 23-inch piece. And of course, you can adjust these to any way you like. When you're doing the back legs, you want to make sure that you do have a right and a left leg because it will be different. For the back, we have a 1.5-inch strips with a 1.5-inch gap between them. That will also double as a lattice as needed. Trim is 1.25, so it doesn't take up too much space. It also balances better with the back. I'm not sure if that's going to focus well, but we're about 6.5 inches deep on this one here. That should be all the specifics, and I'm going to get down to this. Let me show you this guy first. This one here was prototype number 1. I decided to back off doing the 10-degree angle on the back just because it made it overly complex. And once that I realized that I did not need to have a full leg all the way back there, I just kind of put that extra little bit of trim on there just to kind of see what my spacing should look like on the real one here. So if you do want to do a 10-degree angle on the back, it does make it look a little bit more classy. I would also put more depth in there. But it looks pretty good. I just figured that was a bit overcomplicated. For example, that back leg was a bit longer, but I messed up the angle enough times that I think I lost about 1 inch of height. But that's just prototype 1, which is hanging on the shop. We'll do something with that around the house. And what you see here will be the retail version. So, all right, now I'm going to shut up, put my phone on the charger, and start making some cuts. All right, off camera, I ripped a picket into 1.75-inch strips. And I have cut my legs. I have 6 pieces that are 11 inches long, 2 pieces that are 23 inches long. And we have enough left over here to do the 1.75-inch addition to the picket that's going to make up the box. The box is 30 by 10. I don't think I mentioned that in the intro. I'm going to put you on the tripod and we'll start making legs. All right, we've got our 11-inch pieces and our 2 23-inch pieces. Going to make some legs the same way we always do. I'm going to start off with the 11s. And get my little cheater clamp. Using Titebond III and 1-inch brad nails, just like we always do. A few left in there. And get the glue booger gone. So basically just lining them up. If you watch any of my other videos, you've seen me make legs many, many times. If you haven't, then basically you're putting one on top of the other one, putting some glue on there, a couple of brads, and you're making little L's. So I'm going to get the 2 front legs done first. All right, and we'll get rid of our extra drippage. So for the 23, we want to make sure that we make a right and a left on this. So we're going to put the 11-inch in there first, put our glue on it, then I'm going to do one to this side and one to that side. And that should get it right. And line up the bottoms. And 3 nails should be enough for that much of a span. And that one went on that side. So we're going to put the other one on the other side. All right, easy enough. So you just want to make sure you have right and left legs. And we got our 2 fronts. Now we're going to make a box. I'm going to cut the wood for that off the camera. It's going to be 2 30-inch pieces and 2 10-inch pieces for the box. And I'm also going to use this trim, which is slightly off camera, for the same cuts, and so we make that box a little bit deeper. All right, I got my cuts made off camera. Again, we're using 2 30-inch pieces and 2 10-inch pieces to make our box. And we're ripping the same out of a piece of 1 3/4 strip. To get as far as we are right now, we are 2 pickets in plus a 10-inch piece of scrap. Now your floorboards are going to be 10 inches. You should have 5 of those. So basically, even including the floor, you're up to 3 pickets right now. I didn't count how many pickets it took when I was making it the first time because I was still kind of figuring stuff out. So I'm going to do the back legs first. Again, you want short side in. Always long boards on short sides. And obviously you want it so your legs are facing the right way. We're going to put the 1 3/4 on top because you're going to better support that way. I'm just going to dry fit everything first here. All right. So we're going to put one of our longs, and this is going to be the back, so I'm just kind of seeing if any wood is prettier than the other. So I'm going to put the uglier board on the back. And it's going to dry fit that. Make sure there aren't any weird gaps or anything I need to deal with. And I'm just going to put a little tick mark down the bottom here, just to let me know where to stop gluing. Not really necessary, but you don't need too much drippage on there. Not sure how loud that plane's showing up on my microphone, but dude buzzing my house. I live like 3 miles away from an airport, so it's kind of common. All right, I'm going to glue these down here. Using my line as a guide, because this is kind of an unusual size for me. I could probably just figure out how far to go on a 5-incher or a standard picket. And get our cups going the right way. Cup don't really matter much for the 1 3/4. Get him lined up right. And board number 2 in there. And I'm going to start tacking at the top so I can keep everything even. I would really like to get an overhead cam. I got to figure out how to hang my phone from the sky. Might try it with my wife's phone first in case it falls off the ceiling and breaks. All right, so there's our back. Now for the front legs, same deal. You just don't have to worry about which is left and which is right because they're both the same. And put prettier side forward, which is down. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about putting my little cheater line there because I got one right in front of me. I can kind of guesstimate that. Or my cheater line, you know what I mean. Or you don't. Either way. See, if I wasn't filming, I'd be talking to myself, just so you know. That's why I like filming, so I don't sound like I'm crazy. Actually, I may not be helping my argument much there. Yeah, top bar down. And that's my cup side. Get a few in there. All lined up. My larger board is about a hair longer, so I'm just kind of centering it. Top on first here. All right, and there's our front side. Now on this planter, you do not want to forget to put your 5/8 strip in here before you put it together, because it's really hard to get in there if you do. So I have a selection of 5/8 strips because pretty much all my crap wood that has splits in the middle I rip into 5/8 and then just throw away only the broken bit. All right, so I'm going to rip 2 pieces just to the inside length here, minus the width of a board, and be right back. All right, got my 5/8 inch strips cut to fit, and just going to glue these down for our bottom supports. Something that most of the ones I have seen online do not have. Most of them, I see people tacking the boards right to the bottom, which you know is going to fail. Got some people gluing and side nailing, which is a little bit better, but I would rather just add an extra strip here. Add an extra 1 3/4 inches on the top so you don't lose any depth, and put your strip on there. And that's going to be a whole lot more support than what you're seeing with anything that's top nailed or side nailed. I mean, even if you were going to make one of those Adirondack potty training chair style planters, I would still recommend just rip another strip. Make it 1 3/4 inches deeper or 1 inch deeper, and add that additional support, because you know it's going to fail. Yeah, I'll get the second one done here. Get the glue off of that one. Yeah, and second one done the same way. And now, guess what we're doing? If you've seen any of my other videos, you know what we're doing. We're leaning it up on its side, and we're going to put the short sides on. Actually, I'm going to lean this towards me, and not nearly that far apart because it's only 10 inches deep. Stay good. And same deal, we're going to put the short piece on the top. Oh, sorry, the narrow piece on the top. Get my about space in here. And our bigger piece on the bottom. And we're going to glue and tack. Get my cup the right way. And we're just going to squeeze and line everything up to the top here. Try and keep everything square. Looks like I have a thickness issue here. Top trim being thicker than the bottom piece. Yeah, should be all right. Really need to get me a planer so I can just make all these boards the same thickness. Yeah, flip her over to the other side. So we have a box with no bottom. So we got to put a bottom on this, and then we're going to do our back part to make it look benchy, and we're going to do our trim, and we're almost done, at least halfway done. All right, I'm going to cut 5 10-inch pieces for the bottom, and I'll be right back. All right, hopefully a good breeze don't come in and blow my camera off my skill saw here. All right, we got you mounted up high so you can actually see what I'm doing, hopefully. But we have into our third picket now. We have the 5 bottom pieces. We have the 5 bottom pieces, 10 inches apiece. And we're just going to glue down this rail here, which you still can't see it, can you? Well, I guess it's going to be as good as it's going to get, though. So we're going to glue down on the rails here. We'll do the front one first. I think you can see that one. All right, so we got the rails glued down, and yeah, you can see my hand. So I guess you can see through the planter. Cup down. I put corners first because that way I can get it square. And that looks fairly square. Might be coming out a little bit in the back, but not enough anybody's going to notice. And actually, I want a little bit more glue than that. My cap was getting a bit slow. All right. Now we should have about 3/4 of an inch gap when we're done with this. I contemplated making the planter 29 inches to avoid that gap, but we're just going to end up ripping a small piece here. All right. So, yep, you can see there is a gap there. We'll fill that in easy enough. All right, let's tack this bugger. That rattling, this table that I spent $400 on is it's warping. So now I have about as much bow that I had in my $20 yard sale table in the middle of my $400 table. So much for that plan, eh? All right, let me check what my gap is. I believe it's going to be 3/4. Actually, we're almost at a full inch here. We'll go 15/16, which means I have to take you off my table saw. All right, I have my piece of 15/16 in there to fill up that final gap. I didn't feel like putting it back up on the table saw for a single shot. Next thing we're going to do here, lean it this way here, is we're going to put a 1 1/4 inch trim on here. We don't want to do normal 1 3/4 because it'll just be too thick. So just barely enough to cover your sides. So we're going to get that trimmed up, and then we're going to do the back rail, and then we're going to be done. So I'm going to cut that off camera, cutting 1 1/4 inch strips. Picket count is currently 3. It'll be 4 by the time we're done. Right, off camera, I ripped a 1 1/4 inch strip. I've cut this one to 31 1/4, angled on both ends. for our front and back. I've gotten in the habit of whenever I'm doing something that isn't square, I do the long sides first, and then I'll measure the short sides after I get them mounted. Seems to make it easier. And I do have a little bit of an overhang here, which you probably can't see. I'm going to sand that flush once I get everything put on. I always sand round my corners on the trim. So let's glue and tack. Make sure I got nails. Nope. Got the nailer loaded up. Get myself untangled from the hose, and we'll start gluing here. I do the back first. And getting the little gaps there. Evenly spaced. Three in each corner, and put a couple on the back row here. Keep that in there tight. Do the same to the front. On the front, I'm lining up flush with the legs, no overhang, which should also be fairly flush to the inside. Alrighty, now we'll measure this, and we'll see what we got to cut next here. So it looks like we're at 11 3/4 on that side. And the same on this side. So we actually made a square. Okay, so I managed to rip the two smaller pieces, the 11 3/4 inch ends, out of some scrap, saving my leftover on that first picket for the back slats. So whenever you can use scrap to save a bit of a full piece of wood, go for it. And it's going to get that glued up. And we'll do the near side first. Require a little bit of flexing, but it'll work. Get 3 in each corner. And I'll pop 1 in the middle. Same thing on the other side. Got a little bit thicker on here, so I'll give that a little bit of a sand as well, just so there's no big hump there. Even using the same piece of wood, the way these pickets run, you'll get differences in thicknesses freaking all the time. Just from the front part of the wood to the back part of the wood. Yeah, that one, and that one's perfectly balanced. We'll get you in there. And I'm gonna get my sanding block here. Basically just a piece of wood with some sandpaper. And you probably cannot see that. You probably still can't see that, but basically there's a little bit of an overhang there. I'm just going to sand that off. Don't want any sharp edges coming off the corners here. And I just round all my edges on the trim. One, it covers up any 1/16 of an inch overage that you may have. Makes it a little bit less sharp, which is good. There we go. All right, that looks good enough. Now we're going to put our back pieces here. Our back pieces will be 1.5 inch thick with 1.5 inch spacing. In measuring these, I have 31 and 3/16 near the base. At the top, I have 31 even. So I'm going to cut all my boards to 31 and 3/16, and then we're going to stretch this out a little bit here because we want to have some consistency and, of course, cedar flexes. So these are all going to be 1.5 by 31 and 3/16 on this particular planter. Again, measure your own. All right, so now we're going to put the back rest on here. So we are at 4 pickets on this build plus 2 thin pieces of 11.5 inch scrap to make these. So basically a 4 picket build. The last piece of the side, the 10-inch side, you could have gotten that off the same piece as your bottom. So that's why I'm not counting that one, because there's enough to make 6 or 7 bottom pieces, because you can get 7 10-inch pieces out of a picket. So I have my 4 pieces, and I've got a chunk of 2x4. First piece I'm going to put all the way to the end, and I am going to have to flex a little bit to make that straight. So let me get my glue down here first. And I'm just going to do the first one flush, and then I'll stretch to get the second one on there. I'm going to do that flush and square. And this one here is going to require a little bit of stretching. And now we should be square for the rest of them. And for our next piece down, we're going to use our 1.5 inch pieces of 2x4 here, basically thickness of a 2x4. This is a spacer. We'll line them up on the ends. We'll get our glue down there. All right, so we got number 2 down. Repeat the process. Get rid of this massive glue shooting out the side here. And yes, I did math to figure out how many of these would fit here when I was making my prototype. And do it one more time. And other than putting some drainage holes in the bottom, all right, and she's done. If you like this stuff, please like, subscribe. I guess hyping is now a thing, even though I've never figured out how to do it. But I do appreciate your support of the channel. Tonight, later, I do plan on doing a live, which will be actually building a real bench instead of just a planter, because I got an order for one of those. And y'all have yourselves a great day. Thanks for watching.